Okay, we're on the air, ready to begin. Thank you all for coming. Welcome to the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, May 10th. If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Supervisor Pine?
Here.
Supervisor Groom?
Present.
Supervisor Horsley?
Here.
Supervisor Tesia?
Here.
President Slocum?
Here, thank you. Public comment is next, and this item is reserved for persons wishing to address the board on any county-related matters that are not otherwise on this agenda. I have some slips here, but if anybody wants to address the board, there are speaker slips in the back. The first comment is from Martin Fox.
Good morning, President Slocum, members of the board, my fellow veteran, Mr. Maltby, and County Counsel, Mr. Byers. Thank you for your service to the county. Please help to make Laura's Law successful by engaging those persons living with serious mental illness who lack the capacity to seek treatment voluntarily and that are already known to have exceptional need, like the late Errol Chang and Yuniro Serrano were known to have, and their families without any more delay. San Mateo County's exceptionally needy persons living with serious mental illness who lack the capacity to seek treatment voluntarily are already known to local law enforcement agencies and the psychiatric emergency services units at San Mateo Medical Center and Mills Peninsula Hospital. One psychiatric emergency services nurse observed that several of what they call frequent flyers spend more time at the hospital that she works at than she does. With electronic medical records, San Mateo County's frequent flyers can be easily identified very quickly, and that would reduce the cost of outreach and enhance the opportunity for successful recoveries. The detective, deputy sheriff, and licensed clinical social worker who staff the Sheriff's Department's psychiatric emergency response team already use electronic records to make their operations more effective, efficient, and successful. Put another way, setting up a toll-free number and waiting for the phone to ring before responding is a waste of valuable, scarce resources when more efficient and effective alternatives are readily available. There are really no good reasons why persons living with serious mental illness who lack the capacity to seek treatment voluntarily, that are already known to have exceptional need, and their families should have to continue to wait for the installation of a toll-free telephone number for them to have access to Laura's Law services for their loved one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Next speaker is Catherine McGeary.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Catherine McGeary. I'm a freelance journalist doing field research. I have a concern. Last time I was on this mic, I was talking about malpracticing and implications and what it can do to individuals or communities. I'm concerned mainly about the passing of the mercy killing legality here in California, coupled with medicinal and recreational marijuana use. Due to circumstances of, shall we say, orbiting satellites, all of the new things going up in the air, Twitter is here, Silicon Valley is here, California is the sixth largest economy. So we have a lot of things going on here in the Bay Area. Also, my concern is opiate addiction and trafficking, especially in Sacramento, where 12 individuals were killed by somas. Whether they are rave drugs or FDA drugs, nonetheless, they are here, and they are prolifically being exchanged. I have a concern with in California, the mercy killing legality, that astronomical proportions of people could be at risk of ODing, and yet in their usage of the drugs thereof, accidental overdoses could be shall we say, prolific, and it's a very sad situation. So that's all I have to say. I'd like to guard against ODs as much as anyone else. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Karen Franconi.
Good morning, County Manager, County Council, and the Board of Supervisors. I just wanted to come before you today to thank you for your consideration of the Measure A loan program. It's an unbelievable help, and just I'm talking on behalf of the Service League, but also I'd like to probably thank you for the rest of the providers. S5 are so grateful for this consideration. It will tremendously stabilize us and help us continue to provide the services that are much needed in this county. Thank you so much. And thank you also to Director Kaplan, Chief Louise, and I forget your name, and Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole, thank you for your providing this.
Thank you, Karen. All right, now we'll move to set the agenda.
I think.
Sorry. Go ahead. Thank you, sir. Was it Ron Gordon?
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Listen, I'm very sorry. There was an 8-minute line to get screened on the way in. It wasn't just for me.
We understand.
Thank you very, very much. I'll be brief. I'm also here to thank you on behalf of providers specifically for our common ground. We apologize that Orville Roche, our executive director, is unable to thank you in person. He's meeting this morning with the Department of Health Care Services as they are conducting a drug medical pre-certification site visit at our EPA residential facility. Our common ground has entered a second quarter century of service with a substantial increase in funding from county resources. You have ensured that our essential treatment beds remain available for those in need of recovery services. We will continue to improve the lives of thousands who have struggled with substance abuse, co-occurring disorders, and associated problems. Our 2 facilities provide nearly 1/3 of the residential treatment beds available in San Mateo County. Your commitment of additional resources ensures that we will be solvent and secure and will continue to flourish and offer our dynamic and successful program to those in need of services. Orville continues to work diligently with staff from BHRS and the Housing Department. All county officials who have met with OCG staff and board have been very receptive and very encouraging, and your funding decisions now enable us to keep our doors open and remain vibrant. As an organization, as board members, and as local residents, we did everything we could to steady our financial footing and ensure that our program survived. Our board members donated and loaned nearly $400,000 to our common ground as we exhausted our personal and program resources in an extraordinary effort to keep our doors open. It was with great agony and heartache last year that we put our property on the market, and with celebratory joy that we were able to take down the signs. Surely it takes a village, and we are grateful our village of San Mateo County enabled us to survive and thrive. Thank you so much for offering us the audience and concern and ultimately the strength which only you can provide. We promise to make you very proud of having extended a life-saving hand to our program. We promise to continue to lend a hand in return to all who enter our doors and all who need our services. When you have time, come to see our program. We know you'll be proud of our work and proud of the commitment you have made. Your efforts and resources will not only provide stability for residential providers, but also allow this county to retain as much residential treatment capacity as possible. Orville's early roots and sports allegiances are in New York. Hopefully he can forgive me for borrowing a Warriors phrase and noting that you have provided strength in numbers to our bottom line. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I guess it's overtime like the Warriors, sorry.
Scored a 3.
Everybody catch that game last night?
Yes.
Very good.
That's great.
It was a good game. Now we'll move to set the agenda and approve the consent, if we could.
I'll move to set the agenda and to approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to the presentations and awards, the first item is a presentation of a resolution honoring Kaiser Permanente Redwood City for its certification as a comprehensive stroke center. And I would begin by making a motion to approve this resolution.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You know, it's probably true that most of us in this room have known somebody or a family member or a colleague who has been affected by a stroke. I know in our family we've had that experience, and it's not a pleasant process, let me just say that. And so it's an honor for me today to welcome Stacy Wagner, and I'm sure some members of the Kaiser team are here also to receive this resolution. Kaiser Hospital is the first hospital in the county to receive this specialized designation. And I'm told that this designation, anytime you have the commission come in and do an analysis for this kind of a recognition, that it's a very extensive process, not easy, and not to be taken lightly. And I'm sure there were countless hours and hours and hours that went into this in terms of preparing for the designation. So Kaiser has earned a distinction that recognizes a hospital's approach to neurologic disease and the prevention and treatment of stroke, one of the greatest health concerns that we as seniors face. Kaiser Permanente Redwood City has a state-of-the-art facility with a dedicated unit that provides 24/7 critical care and a post-hospital rehabilitation program. Listen to this one now. This is an important statistic. Of the 1,200 primary stroke centers in the country, only 98, or around 8%, are Joint Commission certified comprehensive stroke care centers. Only 98 across the country. So it's fitting during the month of May, which is Stroke Awareness Month, that we recognize our very own Kaiser Redwood City for being what we'll call being a national leader, if you will, in the delivery of health care for patients who have experienced a stroke. So on behalf of the entire board, Stacy Wagner and the entire Kaiser team, congratulations and thank you for undertaking this very significant achievement. And I'm sure that Stacy wants, knowing Stacy the way I do, I'm sure she'll want to say a few words on behalf of Kaiser. But first, let me invite you up, and we'll give you this beautiful resolution and then ask you to say a few words. You all can come up if you want.
Thank you for the opportunity to say a brief word, and thank you for providing the infrastructure for us to have the best stroke care delivery system in any county, anywhere across the country. I firmly believe that due to the work of all of the primary stroke centers in our county and the hospital consortium, and the local EMS and the EMS director, we have developed the best system for urgent delivery of care across the country, across the county, and it's due to your support, without any doubt, for sure. We have a very collaborative effort with all the facilities working together, and now that we are a comprehensive stroke center, we're the next tier up from the primary stroke centers, which are all of the other facilities in the county. And we look forward to delivering the best possible care to anybody who needs it in a timely fashion. In addition to delivering the care, we're also very interested in delivering education to the community about what are the signs and symptoms of stroke, how to prevent stroke, how to identify, and what to do in that scenario. And now that it's Stroke Awareness Month, which is May, we met with 10,000 or more members of the community at local stations, Caltrains, BART, et cetera, around the county and elsewhere, where we've handed out pamphlets about the stroke warning signs and what to do. So as a collaborative effort, I think our county is quite sophisticated in its care of stroke and prevention of strokes. And thank you to you and your group for all the work you do.
Thank you. Thank you, Stacy. I know I've told this to Stacy before at Kaiser events, but our 2 kids were born at Kaiser, and we've been members forever, and we had a difficult first son birth, and anyway, I've always had a fondness in my heart for Kaiser Redwood City, so thank you all for your leadership. It's significantly, seriously appreciated, and thank you all for coming this morning. Thank you. All right. I don't know if item number 2, if we're ready.
Yes, sir, we are.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say a few words about the Makers Fair, which is coming to the San Mateo County Event Center on May 20th and 22nd. It is one of the most innovative, exciting, spectacular shows that you will ever see. It is just filled with great technology, great do-it-yourselfness, great inventors, all kinds of exciting things that you just don't see anyplace else in the world. And in fact, the Makers movement is now worldwide, but it actually started here in San Mateo County. We were the first place to have a Makers Fair weekend. And so with that, I would like to introduce 2 people who are very active and involved in the Makers Fair. Mike Pacelli, who is a member of the San Mateo County Event Center Board, and Linda Asbury from the EDGE, the Economic Development Movement in the city of San Mateo. So I'd like to present them with a proclamation after I make a motion to approve it.
Second. Oops. Go ahead. Don, you have to second.
Oh, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought you seconded it. Okay.
I can't. Smile.
Carol asked me if I want to say a few words. I'm right there. Oh, Stacy, I'm right there with Stacy. If I have a chance to talk. Good morning, Supervisors. And Carol Groom, thank you so much for this proclamation. I'm standing in for Sherry Huss and Dale Daughtery to receive this proclamation that I will promptly deliver to them. They're in the thick of their 11th annual Maker Fair in San Mateo. And so I'm honored to accept this. And what Carol said is they started here, and we showed them the love. Like, we know we want you here. We need you here. The trickle down is amazing. But now they're in Cairo. They had one at the White House. I mean, they literally, if you look at a global map, there are Maker Fair movements everywhere, and it all started here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, do you know what the economic trickle-down benefit to the county is?
It's in the millions.
It's about 6 that I've been aware of.
Usually, there's very few hotel rooms left. There are enormous traffic jams, I'm sorry to say. Caltrain puts extra trains on. The buses run extra. The city of San Mateo has been very generous with extra public works and extra police department and extra fire department just to be on the safe side. But it is crowded and it's exciting. And if you don't get there early on Saturday, come back on Sunday because you really have to be early to enjoy it. But it's a great event for the city of San Mateo and San Mateo County.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Did you know that May is National Bicycle Month? And Supervisor Horsley is going to tell us all about bicycle.
Well, okay, first I'm going to make a motion to approve the proclamation proclaiming this National Bicycle Month.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Okay, thank you. President Slocum. In any case, May is National Bike Month. It's sponsored by the League of American Bicyclists and also by the Silicon Valley Bike Coalition that we're all pretty familiar with. Celebrating communities from coast to coast and was established actually in 1956. It's a chance to showcase the many benefits of bicycling and encourage more folks to try giving biking a try. And here's a quote from John F. Kennedy: "Nothing compares to the simple pleasure of a bike ride." And I know that when I used to have Cub Scouts, we used to take them on this bike rides all the time, especially on Sawyer Camp Trail. It's a great place for families. So I encourage you, when the Parks Department has a bike, they close the route for Bike Sunday periodically. It's a great time. If you haven't been on a bicycle for a long time, it's a real safe place to go and really convenient and a fun place. In any case, the National Bike Work Week is 2016. It's going to be held on May 16th through the 20th, and it's the Bike to Work Day on May 20th. So whether you bike to work or school, ride to save money or time, pump those pedals to preserve your health or the environment, simply to explore your community. A National Bike Month is an opportunity to celebrate the unique power of the bicycle and the many reasons that we actually ride. In San Mateo County, joining the rest of the country in celebrating National Bike Month by creating this resolution. So I'd like to introduce our active transportation coordinator for San Mateo County, Ellen Barton. And she's also with the Office of Sustainability, and she has a couple of guests that are with her, and they'll accept the resolution. I have a few words to say, and I want to introduce Julie Beauvoir, if I butchered that, close, and her two. Well, I was going to say two daughters, but one daughter, I think it's Mia.
Mia has a test today.
Mia has a test, and it's always good to be in school for the test. And Zoe Al-Zubadi, and she's both of them. I think all of them are going to have a few words to say. But first, let me come up with this proclamation. And we'll take a picture with all of you.
All right, so let's I'll say a few words and then we'll have a chance for you to speak, okay? Thank you, members of the council and President Slocum. Thank you, Member Horsley. I'm Ellen Barton. I'm the Active Transportation Coordinator for the County of San Mateo, and it's a great privilege and humbling to be here to receive the proclamation with co-recipient with Julie and Zoe. The proclamation really is here, and we are on behalf of the thousands of people who use bicycles regularly throughout San Mateo County. So you can picture with me here lots of school children, hundreds of college students, thousands of workers, people at a shop, all of these people who have been pedaling towards a proclamation for May as Bike Month for many years. They really deserve the honor, and they are here in spirit taking the honor much more than I. With this proclamation, as Supervisor Horsley mentioned, San Mateo County joins the 60-year tradition of the League of American Bicyclists and joins hands with thousands of cities and counties across the nation in celebrating Bike Month. Bike Month is a time to recognize the event champions who've added economic value to our county through the hundreds of bicycle events and rides that attract people from all over the region, indeed all over the nation, to come here and enjoy cycling in our beautiful county. Bike Month is a time to recognize the children who are real champions, hundreds of children who bike to school and improve their health with daily physical activity in our county. And I just learned last night that Central Middle School in San Carlos now has three full bike racks every day now with bicycles, where they had only 2 years ago just one bike rack that was only partly full sometimes. And so it's really working. These Safe Routes to School programs are getting kids out there to be physically active. And this is an event that recognizes the importance of the environment that the kids are actually helping to preserve in their daily bicycling by reducing pollution, addressing some of the traffic congestion, and increasing our community's resilience by reducing some of the fossil fuel reliance. Bike Month is also a time to recognize the public works champions who have built the infrastructure that's made possible this important progress. More than $20 million has been spent locally over the last 10 years to make more bike trails, to make safe highway overcrossings, to make bicycle boulevards, and even now, just legal as of last year, something called the protected cycle track. And we actually have our first one in Menlo Park, and I'm sure there are other ones coming soon. This type of infrastructure is been shown around the world to actually make it possible for more children, more new bicyclists to try bicycling for transportation. So this proclamation gives us time to celebrate and a time to recognize that there's more to do. Transportation contributes 38% of our greenhouse gas emissions, and it's the single largest component of those emissions. And it's been the hardest to budge. It really hasn't gone down in the last 10 years, where we've made a lot of strides in other areas. So bicycling can help us to meet our greenhouse gas reduction goals. And we know that 50% of all of our daily trips are less than 3 miles long. So that's where we have an opportunity. Some of those are going to be possible to do by bicycle. So thanks to the leadership of this board, we're seeing that bicycling can solve for the future, as we say in the Office of Sustainability. So now I'm going to introduce Zoe and Julie, who will say a few words about how important bicycling is to them.
Biking to school makes me feel happy because I get to spend time with my mom more than I usually do.
Thank you, Zoe.
Yes, thank you for this proclamation. So every morning, my two girls and I bike. They bike to school and I continue my commute to work, rain or shine. So it's a great way to stay healthy, to be good for the environment, to give us energy for the day to come. And really, I appreciate the bike trails that are available to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And just one last note. In the proclamation, I recognized the day of Bike to Work Day, which is the national kind of official day. In our Bay Area, we celebrate on the 12th. So this Thursday is Bike to Work Day. So please enjoy that day. And thank you very much for the proclamation and this honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Zoe, thank you for sharing that story with us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And Ellen is she's a real believer. She actually does bike in the rain. I've seen her with her little beret biking down the road, so she's a real true believer.
All right, moving on. Item number 4, which is the presentation of a proclamation designating May as Older Americans Month. Supervisor Tissier.
Yes, this is a very busy month.
Very busy month.
Every year in May, we do celebrate Older Americans Month, and this year, the theme for Older Americans Month is Blaze a Trail. Could be part of the biking, for all I know. This is the 51st anniversary of the Older Americans Act, which was an act of Congress that ushered in the first comprehensive federal effort to provide funding for senior programs related to nutrition, in-home and community-based services, legal protection, health promotion, and research. The purpose of Older Americans Month is to highlight the unique contributions of seniors to our local San Mateo community, our state, and nation, while acknowledging the responsibility of policymakers to care for this population. The San Mateo County Commission on Aging provides recommendations to this board on policy matters including health and nutrition, affordable and accessible housing, employment opportunities, legislation, elder abuse, transportation, and new resources. And each May during Older Americans Month provides an annual report to the Board of Supervisors for its consideration. Older Americans, a rapidly growing segment of San Mateo County population, are held in the highest esteem for their wisdom and guidance. So with that, I would like to present to Christina Kahn, who's the chair, who's really stepped up to the plate to take on the commission this year. I want to present her, and I notice there's quite a few people in the audience from the Commission on Aging, so I'm going to ask all of you to come up. And I also want to thank Pat Brown. She's done an amazing job working with the commission this past year, and we've also seen a huge increase in our aging population since I first started here on the board 12 years ago. So this is, I'll make a motion to approve the proclamation.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
We're also going to have a presentation on the work that's been done this past year. And I think you have a PowerPoint in your packet as well.
Good morning, honorable supervisors, Mr. Maltby and Mr. Byers. It is great pleasure that I accept this opportunity to present the San Mateo County Commission on Aging annual report. My name is Christina Demas-Kahn, the chairperson for Commission on Aging. I've been on the commission for 5 years and also the program manager for High Kappa San Mateo, the Medicare counseling program sponsored by Self-Help for the Elderly. Established in 1969, the Commission works to maintain, enhance, improve the quality of life for older adults living in San Mateo County through promotion of independence and self-sufficiency, mental and physical health, and social and community involvement. The Commission on Aging serves as the principal community advocate for older adults in San Mateo County as advisory to your Board of Supervisors. We are so thrilled the Older Americans Act was recently reauthorized by the Congress and signed by President Obama. The reauthorization dedicates funding for community programs for persons over the age of 60 while acknowledging the significant and growing sector of individuals in the United States. Will the members of the Commission please stand? Here is a list of our wonderful commissioners who dedicate their expertise, time, energy, and heart to the work of the Commission on Aging. We are all aware of the baby boomer population, as some refer as the silver tsunami. The slide before you offers an estimate of this tsunami. Another way to look at the projections from the San Mateo County Aging Model is that we could expect to see a 72% increase in the number of older adults 65 plus by the age 2030. That's 157,366 older adults. The Commission on Aging has worked throughout the year to fulfill their advocacy and advisory roles. Our advisor, Supervisor Tissier, sponsored a commission retreat to help identify and prioritize the needs of older adults in San Mateo County. In addition to promoting communication among commissioners and to realign the commission structure with other county commissions. After the initial retreat, subsequent planning meetings continued, all facilitated by our consultant, Patricia Brown. Through this planning process, we identified 3 priority issues: adult abuse prevention, transportation and mobility needs, and resource access. Guided by our identified priorities, the Commission, via the work group committees, took action. The Adult Abuse Prevention Committee collaborated with the Aging Adult Services Elder and Dependent Adult Protection Team, otherwise known as EDAPT, for outreach efforts in the community. Commissioners provide an older adult perspective and real-life experiences during these outreach presentations. The Adult Abuse Prevention Committee also developed an informational flyer regarding elder abuse prevention for distribution to San Mateo County community. Commission on Aging will be participating and assisting with outreach for the county-sponsored World Elder Abuse Awareness Day Vigil on June 15th. A presentation about the vigil will be presented in June to your board. The Resource Access Committee, in collaboration with Aging and Adult Services staff, updated and published a revision of the Help at Home booklet for 2015 through 2017. Help at Home is available as a hard copy mini booklet and also online in Chinese, Spanish, and English. The Commission on Aging participates in a number of outreach events throughout San Mateo County. Tabling at the annual Seniors on the Move conference allows for contact with hundreds of San Mateo County seniors, providing outreach information about services offered in San Mateo County. The third work group committee, the Transportation Committee, whose primary goal is to become an advocate for safe senior mobility, is in the final stages of developing proposed action items that will be presented to the Commission in the upcoming months. Part of the Commission on Aging's responsibility is to oversee Older American Act funding, which allocates dollars for community-based programs for older adults. I'd like to introduce Michelle McKeno, the manager of Commissions and Provider Services Unit, who will talk a little about the area plan and needs assessment.
Good morning, Honorable Supervisors, Mr. Maltby and Mr. Byers. The Community Needs Assessment and for your area plan are requirements to draw down the Older American Act funds. Data from multiple sources contributes to a needs assessment that helps inform the area plan. One component of this needs assessment was the community survey. It was widely distributed to over 9,000 people. We utilized a different source of outreach. We used social media this year. We seemed so modern. We used Facebook and Nextdoor, and we also had the traditional hard copy surveys in addition to online survey taking. And we believe this had some effect on the results of the survey when we added the online feature. So from the community survey, the 3 top needs or concerns of older adults are listed on the screen. And you may look at that just as we did and thought, there's a couple elephants in the room that aren't up there: housing and transportation. We were curious about that. Why might that have happened? And we believe it has, again, something to do with having an online presence. People who responded demographically said there were quite a few responses where they owned their own home and they drove their own cars. So we believe, the method of how we pull data will have an effect on what data comes in. So it was a pretty interesting. We were surprised at what came out. But the overall needs assessment does not just look at the community needs assessment. There are a lot of other data sources that go into that needs assessment. So we utilize the needs assessment to develop goals and objectives and the area plan, which your board approved, I think April 25th or 26th. And it goes up to Sacramento for approval, and that area plan then informs an RFP for services that's scheduled for distribution fall of 2016. So thank you very much. I'm going to turn you back to Christina Kahn to bring it on home.
Okay. The Commission on Aging will continue to work through our current challenges to better serve our target population. Okay. In addition to those listed on the screen, the Commission will target the recruitment process to enhance the diversity of representation and expertise of commissioners and continue to help change lives in a positive way for older adults living in San Mateo County. On behalf of the Commission, I'd like to thank Supervisor Tissier for her support and guidance this past year and a half. You have helped the Commission establish priority issues, develop better communications between committees and each other, reorganize our general meeting format, and provide professional consultation with Patricia Brown. With your assistance, guidance, and support, the Commission has become more effective, result-oriented, and aligned with other county commissions. Thank you. We'd also like to thank Aging and Adult Services staff, Michelle, Lisa, and all the other staff that were unable to be here for this report. We thank them for their support and dedication to the Commission on Aging and for bettering or for having the desire to change the lives of older adults living in San Mateo in a more positive way. This concludes my report, and I'd like to thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. You've done a great job this year as the chair, and I'm pleased to see all the members here. That shows great support, and you guys have worked really, really hard this year, so I thank you very much. And Lisa, Michelle, thank you as well.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you for the presentation. Okay, moving on, item number 5, which is the presentation on sea level rise. Supervisor Pine, are you going to kick this off or introduce it, or should I just call Mr. Eggemeyer?
Well, I'll just, a word to get things going. So, as everyone knows, the county has been very much focused on the challenge of sea level rise for a number of years now. And we wanted to make sure that everyone was up to date on some of the progress we've made and some of the goals we have going forward. So it's great to have Mr. Eggemeyer and Hillary Papendick with us today.
Good morning, President Slocum, Supervisors, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Byers. My name is Jim Eggemeyer with the Office of Sustainability. Today we are here to talk about sea level rise, and this is a two-part presentation. First, Hillary Papendick from the Office of Sustainability will talk about the county's efforts to address sea level rise. Then, students from Redwood High School who are participating in the Youth Exploring Sea Level Rise Science Pilot will talk about their perspective on sea level rise. Last fall, your board voted to fund a pilot for the YES project through District 3 Measure A funds. Thank you very much. This program is a key component of the Office of Sustainability's Sea Level Rise public outreach efforts. So thank you for your leadership on addressing sea level rise in San Mateo County. And with that, at this time, I'd like to introduce Hillary Papendick from the Office of Sustainability.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you to the board for this opportunity. San Mateo County is especially vulnerable to sea level rise. The county is one of 6 counties in the nation with over 100,000 people at risk from 3 feet of sea level rise by 2100. In addition, the county has over $24 billion in assets at risk from sea level rise, and this is from a 2009 report. Sea levels in the San Francisco Bay have risen by 8 inches since 1900. We know this based on data from the San Francisco tide gauge. And this tide gauge is the oldest continuously operating tide gauge in the country. So how much will sea levels rise in San Mateo County? The best available science tells us that the midpoint projections are 6 inches, 12 inches, and 36 inches. So that's 2030, 2050, and 2100. You can see the ranges here in the slide. By 2100, we could see up to 5.5 feet of sea level rise. The county is working on developing a resilience strategy to minimize risks from flooding and erosion due to sea level rise. This first involves understanding what is at risk from flooding and erosion today, as well as what is at risk in the future from an increase in flooding and erosion due to sea level rise. This slide here shows areas that could be flooded with 1.5 feet of sea level rise plus a big storm, as well as areas that could be affected by future erosion on the coast. To do this, the Office of Sustainability is conducting a sea level rise vulnerability assessment. To complete the assessment, the Office of Sustainability received grant funds from the California State Coastal Conservancy. This is the first step in a multi-phase process to prepare the county for sea level rise. The county's sea level rise program is known as Sea Change SMC. These steps are shown here and include scope and organize, assess, define, plan, and implement. We are currently in the assessing phase. We are incorporating public outreach and stakeholder engagement into all of the steps, and this is illustrated in the slide. The Office of Sustainability is working across county departments and in collaboration with cities and other key stakeholders to conduct the assessment. We also have a robust public outreach component to the assessment, and this is to increase public awareness about sea level rise across a variety of audiences, including youth. We will have a draft of the vulnerability assessment complete by the end of the summer and a final report completed this fall. The assessment includes inundation maps showing a variety of different types of sea level rise, as well as an inventory of thousands of assets that are located in areas exposed to sea level rise. These are divided up by each city and unincorporated area. As you can see here, Coyote Point Park and the animal shelter are both in an area exposed to 3 feet of sea level rise. The Parks Department is already working on a sea level rise adaptation project at Coyote Point. The inventory of assets includes tens of thousands of assets at risk. Given the volume of assets, we have divided them into categories, such as transportation assets, wastewater treatment facilities, natural areas, and others. We've then ranked the built assets according to the potential risk for human life and safety should the assets fail. We then worked with each city and our stakeholder groups to choose a subset of 30 assets for a more detailed assessment. These 30 assets are representative across these different categories and across locations throughout the county. And we felt 30 was a sufficient number to get a representative sample of different categories and locations throughout the county. So these case studies include healthcare facilities, a school, wetlands, closed landfills, parks, wastewater treatment facilities, flood control structures, roads, a Barton Caltrain facility, socially vulnerable communities, and others. Once these are complete, the goal is for these case studies to then serve as templates for cities and others to further evaluate vulnerability of the rest of the assets in the county. The report will also include a section on adaptation planning. The vulnerability assessment will support the development of adaptation plans, policy changes, and actions to mitigate erosion and flooding. Before the end of the year, staff anticipate bringing a proposal for a county policy on sea level rise to the board. Staff anticipate incorporating this into an amendment to the county's green building policy to address key sustainability issues. Before I conclude, I'd like to take a moment to introduce TJ Carter, who's in the back here. He is our incredible Climate Corps Fellow, and he has been instrumental in completing the work that we've done so far. If you would like additional information about our project, what is happening in your district on sea level rise, TJ and I are available to talk with you individually through a presentation or conversation. Next, students from the Youth Exploring Sea Level Rise Science Pilot will present. Through this pilot, we have reached approximately 100 students this year, providing over 400 hours of classroom instruction, field trips, and opportunities like this one for students to share what they have learned and have a voice on the issue. Funds are also being used to develop other innovative outreach projects, including interpretive walks and art and science activities. In the coming year, we hope to expand the YES program to include over 300 students and 6 schools, and to engage new segments of the population, our community, during the adaptation planning process of Sea Change SMC. The students who are presenting today are from the Redwood High School. I will now turn it over to Mr. Christopher Beatley Hagler to introduce the students. Great.
All right, good morning. Thank you, Hillary. Really thrilled to be here. My name is Chris Beatley Hagler. I teach at Redwood High School. We're just down the road in Redwood City, and thank goodness, because our bus didn't show up today, so we walked. Yeah.
Bicycle?
Bipedal transportation. No fossil fuels were burned in the transportation of this group. I wanted to just to recognize Marina Saros and all her indispensable support of the program. We're really thrilled to be here, and I think I can speak for myself, but also the students, that we're probably a little nervous. So we appreciate you all bearing with us. This is definitely the first time I've been in the county chambers, and I'm assuming for most of my students as well, presenting with you all is definitely an honor and a thrill. So we are really grateful for the opportunity. The transitions may be a little rough. I brought my 11 best students. They're all going to be presenting one slide, so bear with us as they pass on the lectern here. But maybe we could welcome them up here, and students, maybe I'll just ask you to say your name before you present your slide. Maybe we could welcome them up here with a nice round of applause. Sure.
While they're getting organized there, let me just thank you all for being here. Students from Redwood High School, thank you. And especially thank you for hoofing it from school to the board chambers. I guess the good news in all that is you didn't have to hunt for parking, and it was better for the environment. So thank you all for being here. We look forward to your comments.
Hello, my name is Oscar, and so this slide shows how concerned are you about present-day flooding. So we surveyed about 83 people from 17 different countries. The oldest was 63 and the youngest was 12. If we reduce our use of greenhouse gases, that will reduce the risk of sea level rise and climate change. So the second slide shows how concerned are you about future level sea rise. 12.3% of people are extremely concerned about flooding, 21% are concerned about SLR. 24.1% of people are either not or somewhat concerned of SLR. 54.2% are either concerned or very concerned about it. 30.1% is more concerned than not.
My name is Christopher Thibault. The question that is asking us is when it comes to solving climate change, which of the below is the most important? And as you see here, in the people who live in the community, we have the percentage of 25.4 that pick who live in the community. And that shows that like people want the community's like advice on what they think about sea level. And yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is David, and the second highest group was the federal government. And one way they can help is by setting up special classes for students to learn more about global warming and what causes it.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Divine. So another interview question was, what do you think the most effective way for young people to get involved with climate change? We came up with ideas as in like fun activities for students to get involved, field trips that involve us with school learning about more climate change, free food, barbecue, or picnics to educate teens. Food grabs attention for the kids, definitely.
Yep.
It's also a good way to actually have, for us real class, we actually didn't really know much about the climate change or SLR until we got more affiliated with it. And I think now we're more educated and we're more serious about our community, how it's affected by sea level rise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Briseida, and I'll be talking about what will be in danger if if sea level rose. So we had a field trip to Cooley Landing and saw what would be in danger, and we said that there would be no homes, no education, or any churches, so religion wouldn't be supported because there wouldn't be any holy place to go, and there would be more homeless people if sea level rose because East Palo Alto is really close, and like it would take over homes, roads, and
Hi, my name's Ronacia, and PG&E will also be in danger if sea level rose because there'll be no power and people like it'll just put people in danger because people like it can start a fire and things can like get I'm not explaining it like people get electrocuted because it's just so much power with PG&E and if water touches it, yeah.
Hello, I'm Tyrell, and what's important about sea level rising in East Palo Alto is like how we have a lot of diversity, how there's a lot of cultures, and how we come together as a community. And what's unique about it is we have cultural events like picnics and barbecues like that. And then if sea level were to rise, the working class would be gone. For instance, construction workers. If sea level were to rise, there would be no more buildings. It would wipe out the whole East Palo Alto community.
Yeah, my name is Brandon, and well, someone who hasn't visited or lived in East Palo Alto should know that East Palo Alto is like your neighbors. You guys are like good connections because you guys like talk. They have a bad reputation, but I believe it's not bad. If you know people and you don't get in their business, then you're good. But that's why I think we should protect East Palo Alto from sea level from rising.
Hi, I'm Tatiana. As Briseida said, East Palo Alto will be affected. One way we can help is reaching out to our governor to help find solutions and companies for funds for insurances, and it would help people kickstart and relocate.
Hey, my name is Esteban Valencia, and if we bike a lot, we don't use a lot of gas, and when we produce less greenhouse gases, we need more people to become more aware of the SLR in our community.
All right. Well, that concludes our presentation. Thanks again for your attention and the opportunity to be here.
Christopher, are all the students from East Palo Alto?
The majority. How about raise your hand if you live in East Palo Alto right now? So looks like about 8. But it's between 60 and 80% of students at Redwood High School.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, students, for coming this morning. You did a great job up there. I know it's not easy going to the microphone and speaking before all these people, so your effort is recognized and it's sincerely appreciated. Thank you for taking your time to be here, especially because you walked over, which means now you have to walk back, I'm assuming. So thank you. And to Teacher Christopher, thank you for leading this effort. And to Supervisor Dave Pine, thank you for your leadership on this matter. And I know you wanted to say a few words.
Yeah, just a couple of things. First, again, thanks for the Redwood High in their participation today. So the sea level rise challenge is such a unique one in that, in climate change generally, in that we will have to face it for generations and generations and generations. And we don't know exactly what it means and how severe it will be. It's a large part will depend on how the world changes it moves to cleaner energy and a cleaner economy. So when you think about sea level rise, it doesn't lend itself to just, well, here's the answer. Instead, each generation will have to struggle with it, as with other climate change challenges. So, I often tell people we're really in the top of the first inning when it comes to dealing with this. But I think San Mateo can be proud of what we've accomplished in the top of the first inning. We're building considerable knowledge about our vulnerabilities. We've built a lot of capacity, and we're fortunate to have the staff in the Office of Sustainability, as well as others around the county staff. We're incorporating Sea Level Rise into numerous projects. Actually, I'd ask Hillary, when she has a chance to distribute to the board, a spreadsheet that kind of compiles all the different things that are happening related to sea level rise. And through these efforts, I think we have established the county as a leader in thinking about this. And that will lead to good things when it comes to applying for future funding, because success will breed success. Also, when we think about sea level rise, there's such a connection to flooding. Because when you think about a big storm, that's like essentially a one day or 1 week sea level rise episode of, say, 2 or 3 feet of water that would come in and then recede. So this board has responded to that challenge as well by putting forward about $6 million in general funds to try to improve our capacity to deal with flooding. Through that process, we've learned a lot about FEMA and are now actively applying for FEMA grants. We've learned about the importance of our hazard mitigation plan and are trying to make that a foundation for future grants. And then in addition, Supervisor Horsley and I serve on a CCAG water committee, which is bringing together the cities through CCAG to think about how we should organize ourselves to deal with flooding and sea level rise going forward. So again, while we're in the top of the first inning, we're certainly building that capacity and the foundation that we need. So I would like to take a moment to again thank the numerous people who have been so involved. So within the Office of Sustainability and Jim Egermeyer's leadership, we're incredibly fortunate to have Hillary Papendick, who came to us from the Coastal Commission. She has been working on this incredibly hard and has really gained the respect of everyone around the county with both her expertise and her ability to bring people together. I'd like to thank Michael Barber from my office and Deborah Hurst from Supervisor Horsley's office. We have folks from the legal team involved, Paul and Tim from legal, Jim Porter from the Department of Public Works. TJ Carter was appropriately mentioned. We have to find another climate fellow because he's been indispensable. Marina Pizarros, who's due to Supervisor Horsley's Measure A support, was able to kick off this really interesting education outreach. We've brought in Matt Fabry as well. So what we do is we do have a standing meeting every Monday to try to have everyone talk together about these issues. So very grateful for everyone's hard work.
Thank you, Supervisor Pine. Supervisor Horsley.
Just a couple quick comments. I started my career actually as a science teacher, and I knew that from having been a science teacher that you really can grab people's kids' attention through science. So a lot of the other courses are kind of dry, but science is not. It's a changing, dynamic environment, and so when my staff person Deborah Hurst, who came to me and said, "Gee, I have this great program, a YES program," and she introduced me to Maria Saros and talked about how we could involve teens in learning about sea level rise. And I have to say, I'm sort of enthusiastic about it, mostly not only because of the fact that I know that science education is something that kids really grab onto. They really get interested in it because there's so much hands-on work, and because it is such a hot topic that they must read about today, they must hear about if on television or newspapers or just in their communications in school. So it really is a great opportunity for kids, for teens, to actually go out and see some of the things that are happening today, because really San Mateo County really is ground zero. And some of the pictures that we saw, that the surf over on the coast side, how it's really eroding right the California coast. I can't think of a better way to learn something about sea level rise and the effect of the oceans, the changing oceans and the king tides, and how king tides are becoming greater, stronger, and having a greater impact on our coast side, as well as obviously the bay side. So, and the other thing about this, with having young people really get involved in sea level rise, is that they really are going to live with this more so. We'll all live with it, but they're going to live with it for their whole lives, and they're going to have to deal with this their whole lives. So for them to get an early start on an education on what we can do as individuals, because it's not going to be all government. It's going to be individuals. It's going to be one by one, taking action, effective action. The best we can do. We're not going to be able to change the sea level rise. We're not going to be able to change the climate change. We're going to have to adapt to it, but we can make sure that we can do things that won't make it worse, that it won't be catastrophic. So it's important that they become the future leaders, that they're the ones who are going to put people in office, that they're going to make the decisions to the future. So the program, I think, is incredibly important, and I think it's really important that we expand it to more of our youth, not only San Mateo County, but through the whole state of California and the whole nation. So congratulations to Marina. Unfortunately, the teacher is gone. He's really he's a pretty cool guy. I can see he's got to be able to relate to young people today, and obviously he's got that down. So extend my congratulations and appreciation to what he's doing. So thanks, Marina.
Thank you, Supervisor Horsley. And with that, I understand we need a motion to accept the informational report on the progress of sea level rise.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Eggemeyer. Now we're moving to our 9:30 item, which is a resolution pertaining to the Housing Action Plan, approving the fiscal year 2016-17 annual action plan and authorizing the director of the Department of Housing or his designee to execute the contracts. I might also add that this needs to be a public hearing, I think, and so later on we'll open the public hearing. But Mr. Yes.
Mr. President, I did receive one comment letter from the public via email, so I will pass that out to the board.
Thank you. Thank you.
President Slocum, members of the board, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Byers, I'm Doug Frederick with the Department of Housing. The item in front of you today is approval of the annual action plan and an opportunity for the public to comment on the annual action plan. This plan lays out the distribution of funding from the Community Development Block Grant Program, the Home Investment Partnership, and the Emergency Solutions Grant Program. The attachment shows the distribution of the funds by project and by type. Any questions that you may have, I'd be glad to answer for you.
Thank you. Questions, comments? None? All right, shall we have a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now open the public hearing. I don't have any speaker cards. Does anyone wish to speak on this matter? Okay, motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the public hearing is closed. And do we, sure.
Just for the Department of Housing, I just want to commend our community partners, the agencies that carry out the important work funded through the Community Development Block Grant and these other precious federal resources, which we're struggling with in decline. So I just want to make sure we don't, since they're not commenting today, I just want to compliment them. They were very involved in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Horsley.
Director Cole, Ken, I just had one question. I noticed that on this, there was an application on a part of Big Wave on the coast side for $3 million and it was denied. Can you tell me what, how come, or didn't score
Well,
high?
I'll ask Doug Fredericks to come up and give it context in terms of the available funding.
Yes, sir. So the application was for $3 million. We had about that much designated for housing development. There are other projects that are in our pipeline a little further that we needed to fund to get those moving toward construction. We have a few issues with Big Wave that we're still trying to work out with the organization that's put it out there, and now Mid-Penn Housing, which has taken a partnership position in the project, and we're in the process of figuring it out.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Byers, do we need a motion on this?
You do. You need to adopt the resolution.
Well, in that case, I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution to approving the fiscal year 2016-2017 annual action plan and authorize the director of the Department of Housing or directors designate to execute contracts for the programs and projects as indicated in the annual action plan.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Cole. Thank you, Mr. Fredericks. Now we'll move on to item number 7, which is regarding the Peninsula Clean Energy Program and resolutions related thereto. Mr. Egermeyer.
Good morning, President Slocum, Supervisors, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Byers. My name is Jim Egermeyer with the Office of Sustainability. And I have a little, I'll let Suki here have a chance to load a presentation that we have for you this morning. We're here today to provide a brief update on the success so far for Peninsula Clean Energy and request additional monies for phases 3 and 4 and kind of the bridge the program during the initial go-live stage from October 2016 into early 2017 when the program is expected to start receiving revenue. So today's presentation is divided into 4 parts. Essentially a little bit on the background of the program so far, a timeline associated with where we're going, and more detail about phases 3 and 4, and then finally the recommendations associated with today's presentation. Also from the Office of Sustainability is Mike Bolander, who will be joining me up here today to share with you in more detail our requests. So initially back in February of 2015, your board allocated $300,000 for phase 1, in which we were and secured the services of Sean Marshall with Lean Energy, as well as the services from PEA, Pacific Energy Advisors, to do a technical feasibility study for Peninsula Clean Energy's efforts. So in addition to those efforts in phase 1, we also reached out to all the cities for their participation and essentially in the technical study. associated with the possibility of bringing this project live in October. Then I returned also in October of 2015 and requested additional monies for Phase 2, which you allocated, in which we dove deeper into the project through the specific development of what we would be providing, increased our community outreach efforts, and also initiated our marketing and communications and branding phase of this project so that we could establish the foundation for what we'll be describing in Phase 3 and Phase 4. Also, we were able to establish the Peninsula Clean Energy Authority, JPA, with full participation of all the cities in San Mateo County and the Board of Supervisors as well. So initially, when I was before your board requesting the monies, we had the project basically in 3 phases, and we've added an additional phase, essentially to show how we're going to be moving into and going beyond October 2016 into that live phase from October through the following October of 2017. We've essentially taken our rollout and segmented into 3 different phases. And so essentially that's what we'll be doing here. But the real idea I really want to show here is that we have 4 phases in our project when initially we had 3. So the specifics in Phase 3 and 4 include kind of conducting our marketing campaign. Now we're going to be going out to businesses and individuals and dealing with the notification aspects of letting people know about Peninsula Clean Energy and the choices they have as part of this program. We're also in the process of setting up a customer call center. We have secured the services of a data management firm, and along with that, they also provide call service efforts to the residents, or will be providing that for the residents in San Mateo County and businesses. We're also, as part of the going live, we'll be mailing notifications out to all the customers in San Mateo County, all accounts associated with PG&E. We're also hiring the Peninsula Clean Energy staff. So we've initiated the efforts around the CEO, and we're currently in negotiations for a final contract. And there'll be additional staff joining that in the future once the CEO is in place with us. We're also looking into acquiring some office space for in which the JPA will essentially be conducting day-to-day business, and also working on a financial partner, and Mike Bolander will share a little bit more with that. And then the most important part is securing and purchasing electricity. So we're in the process now of shortlisting 3 firms that potentially could provide the overall management and procurement of energy, along with scheduling that with CalISO. So with that kind of summary, I'd like to now ask Mike Bolander if he could come up here and share with you kind of the summary of our initial budget and kind of where we're going next with our request today.
Good morning, President Slocum, honorable board members, Mr. Malpe, Mr. Byers. I'm Mike Bolander with the Office of Sustainability, and as Jim mentioned, I'm going to share a bit about the Peninsula Clean Energy's budget. So in late 2014 or early 2015, the board committed to supporting the Peninsula Clean Energy with an initial $1.5 million loan. The slide before you represents that original budget and details the expenses for each of the 3 phases. We are currently in Phase 3, and our recommendation today will be to approve an appropriation transfer request for the final $400,000 of the initial $1.5 million loan. So the slide before you represents how much we have spent in support of the Peninsula Clean Energy Authority as of February 29th, 2016. I chose February 29th as that represents the end of Phase 2, and March is the beginning of Phase 3. So to date, we have spent approximately $400,000. However, we do have a number of contracts in place that extend from Phase 2 through to the end of Phase 4, and that's represented by the encumbrances column. So if we look at the actuals plus the contract encumbrances are the commitments that we have made to the various contractors we have in place. you can see that the total that we have committed to the Peninsula Clean Energy Authority is just shy of the $1.1 million that has been allocated to date. As Jim mentioned earlier, a fourth phase was added, and the table before you represents an updated budget with Phase 4 estimated costs. I just wanted to point out that Phase 3 was modified slightly to account for the hiring of a staff person whose focus is solely on Peninsula Clean Energy related activities. We reallocated funding from the internal planning into the staffing column, so it had no effect on increasing the total budget for Phase 3. Phase 4 costs focus primarily on operating costs for the Peninsula Clean Energy. We have budgeted an additional $100,000 for expanded marketing efforts during the customer enrollment phase. We have budgeted an additional $710,800 that represents permanent staffing for the Peninsula Clean Energy Authority. That includes the CEO, a financial manager, a marketing and public affairs director, an office manager, and a program manager. The $670,000 represents the cost for leasing office space, payments for debt service, and other miscellaneous costs. Additionally, the Peninsula Clean Energy Authority is seeking an additional $12 million in financing so that the PCEA can establish a reserve fund in support of the power purchase agreements to provide working capital for the pre-revenue collection phase, also to account for seasonal differences in cash flow, and for deposits required by the California Independent Service Operators and the California Public Utilities Commission. To date, the county has received 3 term sheets. They are from River City in Sacramento, KeyBank in Seattle, and from Barclays San Francisco office. All 3 have indicated that this is not their best and final offer and there is room for negotiation. However, within their term sheets, all 3 have indicated a collateral of up to 50% of the total loan, which can be as much as $6 million. This collateral will be structured as a loan, and as long as the PCEA does not default on its loan repayment obligations, the full amount of the deposit with interest will be returned to the county at the end of the collateral period. We feel that this is relatively low risk to the county based on the revenue estimates that were provided by Pacific Energy Advisors, who is the county consultant for the Peninsula Clean Energy. County staff also reviewed the pro forma that was provided by PEA. We also reviewed the 3 other operating CCA programs in California. We feel that with all this information, that we are confident PCEA will have sufficient revenue to cover its financing costs in the future. Today, the 3 recommendations we are looking for you to approve is to authorize an ATR in the amount of $400,000 in excess ERAF reserves to the Office of Sustainability for the purpose of completing Phase 3 of a 4-phase project to support Peninsula Clean Energy, appropriate an additional $1.48 million in the fiscal year 2016-17 recommended budget for funding Phase 4 operational costs associated with the launch of Peninsula Clean Energy, and lastly, authorize the county manager or his designee to enter into negotiations regarding a deposit of up to $6 million to serve as collateral to allow Peninsula Clean Energy to secure a bank loan to fund additional startup costs. Thank you, and we'll be available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bolander. Questions, comments from the board?
I just have a quick question. Mr. Bolander, you mentioned that this quote-unquote loan, so to speak, that will get interest on that, and it ends at the end of the collateral period. How long is that?
That is yet to be negotiated. We have seen other models where the collateral period is anywhere between 12 to 18 months, and that would be our strong position with any of the banks that we are working with.
I believe the interest rate it's anticipated to be the pool rate. Is that right?
Correct. That is still to be negotiated, but we were thinking the county pool rate would be the interest earned on the collateral deposited with our financing partner.
And I'm also curious, I noticed the county is sort of taking on this burden, yet we have all the cities involved. Is there any particular reason why the cities didn't participate in sort of, like, I mean, I do consider it maybe low risk, but it is a risk nonetheless, and I'm sort of curious why the cities aren't part of that risk.
Certainly, I'll ask Jim Egemeyer to address that.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to the, I'll say, the leadership of Supervisors Pine and Groom here, relative to kind of bringing forth the program and kind of stepping up in kind of the efforts associated with this endeavor. So we've kind of been just spearheading it and kind of keeping it all contained within kind of one obligation, so as to not engage any other cities right now.
Okay, that's not exactly the answer I wanted, but I'll take it.
Supervisor Horsley.
Is there a phase 5 coming down the road, or is that, are we, in other words, are we going to have, are you going to come back from some additional funds?
No, not that we project. This is a 4-phase project. We go live in October as our projections, and then there's 3 phases associated with kind of rolling the customers out through that transition. So essentially, we're looking at beginning of 2017 is when the cash flows start coming from PG&E into the coffers of PCA.
And also, do you have Michael said that there is a revenue projection for the future to be able to pay off the financing the startup cost. Do you have an estimate of how long that's going to take, and how does that work? Do you add that on top of the cost? I mean, I assume you do. As I recall, there was the estimate, at least initially, was that we were going to charge our residents less than PG&E and still have a delta that would eventually allow us to pay ourselves back. Is that still the plan? And how long does that take to?
Yes, in the pro forma that PEA provided, excuse me, they're looking at a 3-year period to pay back the loans associated with these requests to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Supervisor Pine or Supervisor Groom, anything else?
Just a comment. The Community Choice Energy Program in San Mateo has been, moving it very briskly, and we've really attracted attention from around the state by the fact that we've pulled together all the cities and have scheduled a launch of this service in October. So when I think about the reasons for that success to date, there's really three prongs. One is the team of staff and consultants that have just been outstanding. Secondly is this incredible support of all the 20 cities in the county. But the third one really goes to the point, the question that Supervisor Tissier raised, which is this county has been extraordinary in lending these funds to Peninsula Clean Energy. But for that, we would not have been able to pull this together anywhere near the amount of time that we have. It certainly, for example, if we'd gone through some pro rata effort with the other cities, probably could have added a year, maybe 6 months, but it would add a lot of time. Some cities, as we know, even in these good times, have pretty tight budgets. And then the willingness of the county to provide this cash collateral was also really a kind of a fundamental go, no-go proposition. So I do want to thank my colleagues in the county for really taking a really extraordinary step in these financing arrangements. And it's been noticed. This County of Los Angeles is now exploring community choice aggregation. And their advocates in the County of Los Angeles went to their Board of Supervisors and said, look what County of San Mateo is doing to get community choice aggregation going. And you ought to do the same in terms of lending funds. And I believe they are. So, this financial support in the form of these loans, which will be repaid, but the county is stepping up to take some degree of risk is extraordinary. And but for that, we would have a much more difficult course in getting this launched.
Thank you, Supervisor Pine. Supervisor Horsley.
I just have one other question. As I was reading through the agenda the other night, it came across like number 18. It has to do with the no. Well, I don't know if it's 18, but somewhere along it's the energy program where PG&E gives the county money for energy watch program. Is that going to continue, or is
Yes. Yeah, the community choice is really a partnership.
Well, I know
with
it would continue, but
PG&E,
who's going?
right.
Is PG&E going to continue to contribute to
Yes.
it, or are they going to expect?
Well,
us?
yeah. The monies come from the PUC to CCAG, and then the Office of Sustainability contracts with CCAG for those energy watch, energy programs for energy conservation. There's always will be, and there a continued effort for the kind of the low-hanging fruit on energy conservation is the first way in which we save energy.
I was just wondering if other counties, well, I think this is a good idea, but if other counties go to things similar to Peninsula Clean Energy, will PG&E eventually step out and expect local agencies to take up that program? Just a potential future. I don't know.
That's something we can monitor with the PUC and see, because there are year after year negotiations relative to the rates that we pay PG&E that go for these kinds of services.
But what I'm pointing out is that we're not paying them. We may not be paying them a rate unless somehow when we buy energy from them, or we will.
So yeah, we'll be procuring energy, but there's also transmission and maintenance of the lines, and that remains with PG&E. So there's still monies
I know that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks. So.
Thank you. I think my question is for Mr. Bolander, if I'm not mistaken. But one of the things that I pay attention to is the changing numbers of county employees, whether it's going up or whether it's going down, and where we are historically. And I thought you mentioned that there were 5 staff members being budgeted for.
Correct.
And it seemed like all 5 were managers. And I'm not sure if that's accurate, but if that's the case, then at some later point, I'm assuming you'll be coming back with a request for some workers to actually do the work as opposed to those 5 managers. No offense to any manager, Mr. Bolander or Mr. Eggemeyer. Just curious about that question.
That would probably be a decision that the PCEA will make. We're just helping them with the initial staffing. They'll be the ones who decide what the full staffing makeup of their group will be. This was just the 5 key positions that we had pulled from the technical study that were important are instrumental in launching the program.
So they won't be our employees, if I understand that right. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I understand that. Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, how about a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so the motion carries. We don't have to be any more specific than that, Mr. Byers?
I think the intent is clear.
Okay, very good. All right.
So just a quick observation about the meeting today. So, the county is looking at trying to reduce its carbon footprint and prevent climate change. And then on the other hand, we know that we can't stop it from happening, so we're also planning to adapt to it. So I think we have it covered.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Pine. All right, moving on to item number 8, which is a housing matter, a Measure A resolution authorizing up to $5 million in Measure A funds to 5 nonprofit organizations.
Mr. President, we did have a public comment for number 6, which I give you. It's up to you to.
All right. Is it okay if we take public comment for item number 6?
Sure.
Okay. Is Luis here? Yep, there he is. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm sorry for this change the order. I want to say thank you. My name is Luis Vizcardo. I come from Renaissance Entrepreneur Center. In Peninsula in East Palo Alto. Was very nice to see a lot of people from East Palo Alto, especially kids. So I represent Renaissance. So Renaissance help people to start a small business. So I want to say thank you very much for all your support for us, because your support is very important for us to continue help people to start a small business. Actually, I brought with me Sana business owner. She's Cecilia Andrade. She want to take just 2 seconds to say what she does. She's a business owner, Tucuma Fresca. She's a ice cream factory in San Mateo County.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Cecilia Andrade. I am business owner from ice cream factory. I want to say thank you to San Mateo County Supervisor for your support to Renace. I taken business classes in Redwood City, and these classes help me to grow my business, and everybody is welcome to enjoy healthy and organic ice cream, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Where is your store located?
Say that again?
The location?
What is it? ¿Dónde está localizado?
Es en Haven Avenue in Redwood City.
Warren, you've been holding out on me.
I know.
We need to visit that place.
I didn't want you to know about the ice cream place.
Well, the summer is coming, so I can make a photocopy for the business card. It has just one for business card, but it's 3520 Haven Avenue, Suite H in Melo Park. So it's in San Mateo County. It's very nice when more and more people come in and make the dream true and make a business, and especially it's a wonderful country when you are in other country and you working very hard. The language maybe is a little problem, but the point is work, and the more important is to have the tools. This is what Renaissance support them to give all the tools that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the Renaissance Center. We read about the amazing work that you do, and it's sincerely appreciated. And now, Supervisor Pine, we have our own equivalent of, I guess, Ben & Jerry's here in San Mateo County on Haven Avenue.
Excellent.
So thank you.
3520.
3520 Haven Avenue.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Now we'll move on to item number 8, the Measure A, $5 million in Measure A funds to 5 nonprofit organizations.
Might need to make a county staff field trip. Good morning, President Slocum, members of the board, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Byers. My name is Ray Hodges. I'm a Housing and Community Development Specialist at the Department of Housing. I'm going to give you a little background on the timeline and process for allocating the $5 million fund to stabilize residential substance use providers in the county, and then describe one update to the awards that we'd like to make at the request of one of the providers, our Common Ground, who you actually heard from in the public comments a little earlier. And then turn it over to Steve Kaplan, the Director of Behavioral Health and Recovery Services, for more information on the providers and our expectations for their long-term operations. So last August, the board approved a $1 million emergency fund to assist nonprofit service providers operating residential substance use treatment facilities in the county who are facing imminent financial risks. This $1 million was stopgap funding to be used while staff at the Department of Housing and at Behavioral Health worked out a program in terms for an additional $4 million. And the board approved that added $4 million stabilization fund a month later in September. The goal of the stabilization fund was to reduce providers' operating expenses and secure properties by taking out mortgages and eliminating debt service payments. And we also wanted to look at capitalizing lease payments in buildings that were being leased and at other strategies with an eye to the long term. So to help in reviewing the funding requests, we hired a consultant who is experienced in nonprofit management, nonprofit finance, and supportive services. And the consultant interviewed the applicants, reviewed their application packages and their financials, visited the sites, and looked at the outstanding loan documentation for each of the properties. He also recommended that we hire an engineer to carry out physical needs assessments of each of the properties, and we did that, and we're passing those on to the providers right now. So the consultant gave us his recommendations for awarding the $5 million to 5 providers, and we largely accepted those recommendations. So just to summarize in round numbers, $206,000 will meet immediate capital needs at properties owned by all 5 providers. And then specifically for the Service League, $970,000 will take out mortgages at 5 properties, which equates to 34 beds. For Project 90, $2.4 million will take out loans at 7 properties, and that will secure 43 beds. For Free at Last, we've proposed restructuring 5 county loans at 3 properties to eliminate their debt service payments to us there, and that will secure 17 beds without actually any need for additional Measure A funds. The Latino Commission leases 2 properties, and there we'd capitalize a 10-year lease for 1 property at $735,000, and that will secure 9 beds. And then finally, for Our Common Ground, $665,000 will pay debts and establish a 2-month operating reserve for their 32-bed facility to bridge the period of time between their cash outflows and their county reimbursements. And that'll secure 32 beds there. So this recommendation for Our Common Ground is an update to what's in the staff memo right now, where we had originally recommended taking out their $1 million mortgage. Since that time, Our Common Ground requested that these imminent financial issues be addressed instead, and that would put them on solid financial footing for the long term, especially since the terms of their existing mortgage are already pretty favorable. Our consultant actually recommended this same plan from the start and also felt that it would put them on solid financial footing going forward. I wanted to also note that while the fund was focused on mortgages and leases, this adjustment does fit squarely within the purposes of the initial emergency fund to address imminent financial risks to the providers, and none of that emergency fund had been previously allocated. There's one other benefit to the adjustment. The reduction to Our Common Grounds award allows us to repurpose roughly $300,000 to take out a mortgage on another property in Project 90's portfolio, and that'll secure another 6 beds. So the total $5 million sum to be allocated doesn't change. There's an adjustment in the distribution between these 2 providers. The county's loans would be for 30 years at 0% interest with all payments deferred, and the loan would be forgiven over the last 5 years in 5 equal 20% installments. If a provider did sell a property or failed to operate it for the intended purpose, we can make the loan due and payable immediately. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but first I wanted to turn it over to Steve Kaplan.
Good morning, President Slocum, board members, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Byers. I'll just first thank you for really what's an extraordinary action in support of our providers. I was at a meeting yesterday talking to some colleagues who's very familiar with other counties, and this just doesn't happen in other counties. So I really appreciate that support. By doing this, by taking this action, it takes out approximately $400,000 a year collectively from the providers on debt obligations that they're paying. As Karen Franconi from Service League said, that by doing that, it really creates an opportunity both to stabilize the providers financially, and those dollars can now be spent on what the providers are in business for, and that's to take care of our clients and our fellow citizens in San Mateo County. So it really accomplishes 2 really extremely important purposes. It also stabilizes these providers into the foreseeable future, and we know that residential treatment is an important, vital part of our continuum of care, and without it, we would be in dire straits to really do the kind of work that happens every day and that you all are very familiar with. And it's even more important as we move into the implementation of this waiver that I've spoken to you about around services to Medicaid beneficiaries. And without what we hope you recommend, our ability to implement what we've said we would implement to both the state and the federal government would really be much more difficult than it already is going to be to do. So I really appreciate that. I want to also thank the Department of Housing. They really stepped up to help us work through what has been a pretty complicated process. I want to thank Ken Cole and Ray Hodges, Doug Fredericks, and Janet Stone. They've been really great partners on this. And of course, all of the providers had to provide lots of information in order for us to feel comfortable
in making this recommendation to you. And I also want to thank Clara Boyden from my staff who's here, and she did most of the work on behalf of BHRS to work with the providers on this. So again, our thanks for your consideration of this recommendation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. Supervisor Horsley.
Ray, could you give me the numbers again on our common ground?
Yep. $665,000 is the total. That's the $400,000 of that is for the reserve that they're looking to establish for their. That's like a 2-month operating reserve between the time where they make payments and the time where their reimbursement comes in.
Okay.
The rest of it is payments on outstanding payables.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Anybody else?
I'll just make a comment. I actually think this is terrific. I know it's taken a long time, and I know there's been a lot of struggles, but I think at the same time, to keep these homes available or beds available for those in need is extremely important. And we know over time, we've been talking about how difficult it's been in this county, so we certainly didn't want to lose any. And I appreciate the hard work that all of you have put in, so this is terrific. And because of that, I'll make the motion.
Okay, is there a
Adopt
second?
the resolution.
All those in favor? Aye.
May I assume the motion includes the one change with regard to our common ground, which is, I believe, to substitute the $1 million plus in loaning to pay off loan to pay off the mortgage commitment. It would be $665,000 to pay off other debts and obligations. Is that correct?
That was correct, and also it did the A, B, and C, so all those are included in the motion.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item number 9, human resources. Oops, I'm sorry.
Could I say something, Mr. President? Mr. Kaplan, you said that this doesn't happen in other counties, and I do tend to believe that. But I also believe that other counties don't have the quality of not-for-profits that we have, the quality of staff, and the level of work that is accomplished, and the level of rehabilitation that you tell us about once a year when on Rehab Happens Day. So I think it works both ways.
Thank you, Supervisor Groom. We have one speaker card, Mr. James Stansberry.
It's a lot easier to talk to you after you've already decided. County Manager Mr. Maltby, President Slocum, and Board of Directors. On behalf of Project 90 and the people we serve and the rest of the recovery community, want to thank you for the investment that you've made, and I believe that it is an investment. Doing this later to try to recover facilities or the cost would be just more costly. Every other major disease, they talk about getting early detection and early services. And in addiction, it's almost unknown for it to be early. It's always at the severe state before it gets noticed. And the residential providers are the first, stand in doing stability and getting people in the environment so that they're capable of moving on with their lives. So the assistance that the county has given us, and I believe that it is unique among the other counties, is appreciated. And I'd just like to acknowledge also behavioral health and the housing department and the county manager's office for all the work that they put in to make this done. But I believe, in years in the future, you'll look back and see what a wise investment it was, because it couldn't have been done later without some real critical consequences. Anyway, thank you all.
Thank you. Item number 9, Human Resources, introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 2.84 of the San Mateo County Ordinance Code regarding equal benefits and non-discrimination.
Supervisor Slocum, honorable members of the board, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Byers, I'm actually going to turn this over to Glenn Levy from County Council, who helped us through this process.
Thanks, Donna. Good morning, President Slocum, members of the board, Mr. Maltby and Mr. Byers. Thank you for allowing us to present today. For over 5 years, I've worked with the County Manager's Office, Human Resources, and Joanne Ward on the continuing efforts to improve the county's contracting processes. Today we are presenting an ordinance change that will update and consolidate the county's procedures regarding non-discrimination provisions of county contracts. In particular, we are proposing two key changes regarding county contracts. The first one is that since 2006, Chapter 2.84 of the Ordinance Code has required contracts with vendors to include language regarding the provision of employee benefits to the employees of the contractor. Specifically, the language requires vendors to provide the same benefits to same-sex employees who are domestic partners as they provide opposite-sex married couples. As you know, last year the United States Supreme Court issued a decision granting everybody in the United States the right to get married if they are a same-sex couple. And in the view of the Office of County Counsel, the existing language in Chapter 2.84 is no longer needed, giving this change as well as a section of the Family Code that already prohibits discriminating against domestic partners in California. So this first aspect of the update would simplify the language in county contracts. It will simply require vendors to confirm that they comply with the law which prohibits discrimination in the provision of employee benefits to same-sex spouses and opposite-sex spouses. This change also eliminates some of the enforcement provisions in the Ordinance Code since those are no longer necessary. The second change that's being requested relates to a relatively old resolution. Back in 2001, the board passed a resolution that requires certain language in contracts. In particular, that language talks about enforcement mechanism of the non-discrimination provisions of county contracts. This ordinance would repeal the resolution and then recodify that language in the Ordinance Code in the same section that deals with contracts, for example, the jury duty requirements of county contracts. It also cleans up the enforcement mechanisms a little bit to ensure that it complies with privacy protections for all employees in California. So those are the changes, and I'm able to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Questions?
I had one. You know, as a legal matter, is the whole concept of domestic partners, is that still in place now? In which I guess could be with same-sex domestic partners or opposite-sex domestic partners. I'm unclear about that.
Yeah, so in California, there is still the statutory scheme that addresses domestic partners because it's not restricted to same-sex. You could be opposite-sex, romantically involved, and register for domestic partners because you don't believe in marriage. I believe the provisions in California also allow for other domestic partnerships. I think there were examples of somebody basically entering into a partnership with an adult parent or something in order to get certain benefits. So those provisions still remain in place in California, so there's still two systems. One is domestic partners and one is marriage.
So what does our ordinance say now about those domestic partners?
So the new language is basically a simple sentence that's inserted into the contracts that still requires vendors to not discriminate between the provision of benefits to same-sex or opposite-sex spouses, including domestic partnerships.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on to County Manager's Report number 9.
Mr. President, members of the board, three quick updates. The first is that there will be a groundbreaking ceremony for the Skylonda Fire Station on June 7th, and we will be providing the details of that to the, in June, and I'm not sure the date, but we'll provide the details to the board when those are known. Tomorrow, the Event Center is having hosting a Operation Security Shield training exercise involving hazardous materials. It's a closed exercise involving approximately 20 to 30 individual players. A note from the Health Department, the Medical Center. A number of years ago, because of the lack of providers, the Medical Center stepped up and provided food to Meals on Wheels. Now the infrastructure has changed. There are other providers that can and will provide those services, among which are the Menlo Park-based Peninsula Volunteers. We'll be going out for an RFP this fall for providers that will deliver those meals, and just wanted to make the board aware of that. In terms of voter registration, due to the interest in the June primary, the county will be receiving additional funds in order to assist with the cost of conducting the primary. And finally, the Sheriff's Office is seeking a grant from the Board of Corrections for community building programs that are listed in the report to further the goals and objectives of those programs. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to ask them.
Thank you, Mr. Maltby. Questions?
I'm just looking forward to that Skyline, the fire station, as we've actually started working on this for, gee, it seems like a couple of years ago. So I really appreciate the work that Public Works has done on this.
Thank you. Okay, we move to item number 11, which is board member reports, and maybe we could start with Supervisor Tissier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of adjourned memories. The first one is of Leah Petroni. She passed away on April 28, 2016 at the age of 86, and she is a sister of Miriam Petroni, who was one of our former school board members in Daly City. And Leah was a former employee of Southern Pacific Railroad. Our sympathy goes out to Miriam Petroni and the rest of her family. The next one is Larry Minix. He passed away in Daly City on April 30th, 2016. He was born in Waco, Texas, as the youngest of 6 children. He is survived by his wife of 50 years, Linda Minix, and his daughter, Janine Minix. At the age of 17, he entered the United States Navy, and he was stationed in Hawaii, is where he met Linda when she was on vacation. He later moved to San Francisco, where they were married, and they moved to the Westlake area of Daly City 3 years later, and were blessed with a daughter, Janine. Larry worked in the paint manufacturing industry for nearly 40 years. He was also very creative and talented and loved working in his home and his garden. He always loved to see the birds in his garden, and he cared for many feral cats over the decades that were in his backyard. So our sympathy goes out to the Minix family. And the last adjourned memory is Vera Caldwell Simmons, who's the mother of Carol Simmons. Carol Simmons was a former Daly City Library director. She's actually in Florida. I don't have a lot of information on her, but I wanted to adjourn in her memory for Carol. And 2 quick announcements. 12th Annual Disaster Preparedness Day, Saturday, June 11th at the fairgrounds from 10 to 2. If you get there before 11, you get free parking and free admission to the fair as well. It's a great opportunity to educate yourself and your families on the basics of CPR and also gather all kinds of information on how to prepare for an emergency in our region. Last year we had over 10,000 individuals come through the gate during that first hour, so it's a real great opportunity for families to come, and it's sort of a twofer since you get to go into the fair as well. So the next is the 28th Annual Seniors on the Move. It's going to be held Tuesday, October 25th at the San Mateo County Event Center. Registration for us will be coming soon. It can be through my office or Congresswoman Jackie Spears' office. And last but not least, the one you all love is the Age Well, Drive Smart classes. Belmont, Thursday, May 19th. Pacifica, Thursday, June 23rd. San Carlos, Tuesday, August 23rd. And Foster City, Thursday, September 29th. So I look forward to seeing all of you there.
Thank you. Supervisor Pine?
No, not today.
Supervisor Groom? Nothing today. Supervisor Horsley?
I have an adjourned memory. It's Bob Guerrero. He was a coach, lifelong woodshop teacher and football coach. And more recently, he was a San Francisco Giants ticket seller. Passed away unexpectedly on the 25th of April, and he was 72. Bob was a teacher and coach at Terra Nova High School in Pacifica for over 30 years. His old school humor and creative nicknames have become fond memories for multiple generations of Pacificans. Services were held on May 1st in San Francisco. He was passionate about his coaching, but he was also an innovative teacher who created tech education opportunities for his students long before such a thing became a standard. He's survived by his brother Richard, his wife Kathy, his son Andrew, his daughter Jessica, and his granddaughter Avi, plus 3 more grandchildren on the way. So I assume either somebody's having triplets or twins. Any case, You know, on the San Mateo coast, had many shipwrecks over the years, but we haven't had very many most recently. But so it's not often that really a shipwreck gets lots of attention on the San Mateo coast. But last week there was a 28-foot sailboat that beached near Fitzgerald Marine Reserve, creating a ton of concern. The owner told the Half Moon Bay Review that he was hoping to be able to get his boat back on the water. He was hoping for, I guess, high tide, but a 3-foot crack below the waterline and rough seas eventually began to seal his fate, or its fate. When the sailboat began to break up and it was clear that keeping debris from damaging Fitzgerald Marine Reserve would become the emergency, lots of people concerned about the coast came to work on Mother's Day weekend. And I would have to say Marlene Finley is here. She was the director, and she kept her eye on the situation. And when it was time to get the boat off the beach in pieces, she had lots of help. So I want to take time to offer some words of thanks to just, as you can see the pictures of that boat.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. There was a lot of agencies, a lot of officials, a lot of volunteers, and it became an instant salvage operation. So members of the Half Moon Bay Yacht Club, they actually tried to tow the boat off at high tide and during beach cleanup, and I don't think they were able to do that. The Pillar Point Harbor Master, San Mateo County Sheriff's Department, Barbara Cossey, who is she organized a lot of community people to assist. We actually had California Fish and Wildlife, NOAA, Gulf of the Fairlawns Consulting, and backup. They had a backup for a helicopter if we needed it. There were neighbors in the Seal Cove Beach. They actually allowed us to bring the debris through their yard to dump trucks. Friends of Fitzgerald Marine Reserve, beach cleanup and visitor management resources protection. Keith Mangold, he's a county park volunteer. Mary Lorenas, who was here earlier today, she's and her husband Ed. Mary's on your Commission on Aging, and Ed is a member of Surf Riders. And they're also Fitzgerald Marine Reserve volunteers, and they actually help clean up the debris. Dave Olson from the Mid-Coast Community Council, Chris and Michael Liang, their neighbors. Harbor Commissioner Sabrina Brennan, actually she rounded up a dumpster, our county park rangers, and many more. So congratulations. You can see, the boat is, that beach is completely cleaned up. So thanks to Marlene, as she's an efficient disaster manager. So thanks, Marlene. You did a great job.
Thank you, Supervisor Horsley. Thank you, Marlene, and all the rest of those volunteers. Amazing story. I'm pleased to announce that ISD is having its second annual hackathon. It'll be held on May 21st from 8:30 to 6:30 at GSV Labs in Redwood City, just down the road here. And if you've never been to a hackathon, this is your chance. May 21st, starting at 8:30. It's a pretty amazing sight. You see all these young kids and older kids too coming together to use the county's data on the portal to create, by the end of the day, some amazing apps that can be used on mobile phones, all aimed toward making San Mateo County Place a better location for residents, businesses, and visitors. And I'm really looking forward to it as one of the judges this year. I'll be there and would invite you all to join us for at least a portion of that day on May 21st. So thank you to ISD for putting that together. And with that, we'll adjourn to closed session. Okay, we're back. Mr. Byers, could you report out on closed session?
Yes, thank you, President Slocum. The board met in closed session to consider 4 items. 2 two conferences with real property negotiators, a conference with labor negotiators, and as well as a Middlefield Road project. The board took no final action.
Thank you. We are adjourned.